So today's question comes from my very own Sifu. She asked me how I would define hand-to-hand combat ranges as opposed to some of the other methods that are out there, including her own. I like to keep it fairly simple. I want you to understand that the more complex things become, when stress happens, when shit hits the fan, you are going to kind of forget your Rolodex. You're not going to have time, you're not going to have the patience, you're not going to have the foresight to be able to flip through every single option, every single contingency that you have ever thought of, ever trained. You're only going to be able to remember those things which you have put in enough time and effort in to have become relatively instinctual. And even those things will suffer in technique and form. You do not rise to the challenge. You will regress to your lowest level of mastery, or worse. Very likely worse, very frequently worse. So, with that in mind, I want to keep things simple. A lot of people go into, every single joint down to, ranging for each of them. That is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. If I am measuring my range joint to joint, then I am going too far in one direction. It's less than an inch from fingertip to first knuckle. And I mean, really, I can barely do that, but am I going to attack like that? No. Okay, so let's use something more feasible. From an extended finger strike down to a half fist, do I really need to sit there and think about the specific amount of inches or centimeters that it takes? No, you don't have time to do math. Shut it. No. Alright, let's simplify things. You have out of range. This is strictly speaking in terms of hand-to-hand combat. Now, out of range basically means I can't lay hands on you. I'm going to have to use some form of maneuvering or end up taking on some form of tool to reach you. Now I have striking range. Striking range is simply, if I can touch you, I can hit you. That's all that I'm asking you to remember. If I can touch you, I can hit you. Then we have grappling range. If I can grab you, I can grapple you. That's all I need you to remember. I don't need you to remember that it's a different range from your wrist to your elbow. You're going to intuitively understand that you need to be just a slight bit closer for a punch than you do for a finger strike. That you're going to need to be closer for an elbow than you do for a punch. You have to be closer for a suplex than you do to kick somebody. You understand these things intuitively. But I want you to understand that there are two things that many of these other systems of ranging don't take into account. One, it is effective striking depth. And two, I should say effective action depth. It's not strictly striking. And two is going to be the fact that you don't perform this shit standing still. You don't! You perform in motion, in transition. Everything happens in transition. You don't just stand there and punch. It doesn't happen that way. I mean, you might get backed up into the wall and have to do something stationarily, but you don't stay there. You do something, you move, you rearrange, you re-angle, and you move on. So, that being the case, it doesn't make sense to redefine every single thing based on every single inch, every single angle. It just doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Your movement, your action has to become intuitive. It has to become intrinsic to your nature, not a matter of math, a matter of feeling and intuition. And I don't mean that in some bullshit mystical way. Fuck that shit. All I mean is you need to internalize your art. You need to internalize your movement practice. You need to internalize all of it. Make it part of you and stop having to think about it. So just remember, if I can't touch you, I'm out of range. If I can touch you, I can hit you. If I can grab you, we can start grappling. It's all you need to remember, and that's it. Good journey.